Normal 22 coming back at you. Just want to give you the plan of action coming forward here in the next couple of days. Really, this week, next week, gonna get back on that defensive side of the ball. Gonna talk a little bit about defense. Cover 57. I want to kind of go through that one more time with the guys who are on Patreon. You know about it, you've heard about it, but it's always good to hear it again, and how you can use it as a way to help you out. So I think the one thing that we're going to get done is we're going to start on the Patreon. We're going to start breaking down all the little tactics that we have. And I'm going to start it from really more of like an intro level, JV level, easy things you can use in certain situations. So what are the situations? Well, this one here would be third down, right? Third down and medium. To me, is one of the tougher things to get done in the NFL, any level. So third and medium is usually third and 7, all the way up into about like third and 3 or third and 2, and that's usually still a passing down. So what kind of coverages do you call? And in the NFL, you see a lot more of one robber or bracket coverage, and that's what 57 kind of is. Or it can be a true double team coverage. It's really however you want to call it. So here's an example here of Jim Schwartz. He called it 57. So we would use this a lot in the red zone and also on third and medium. Wade Phillips would be a little different. Maybe he'd call more one robber. Okay. But the thing is, you need to understand when to call it, what formations is good against. So I'm going to kind of cover that a little bit. But I just want to give you a little bit of a little play call sheet here. Let me show you something else here. So we'll kind of let this run. We'll let this run in the background a little bit. So before I played this game, I was actually talking to one of my guys, and he was asking me about the type of techniques I'm using with the DBs. He's noticing that they're very aggressive in certain situations, and I said, well, there's different things that I do, and I'll explain that once I start making my checklist of what's the initial things you can do to stop certain routes. But I talked about this bracket coverage and how I try to make it so it's bracket. Now, in this game, and the guys on Patreon heard this a couple months back, but it's hard to you cannot necessarily make true bracket coverage where both safeties back here can be bracketing on number 2, or the running back or the tight end. And the other, whichever way that player runs, the offensive player, if he goes to the right, the player on the right will take him, and then the player on the left will basically kind of fall off and read the quarterback and look to maybe help another player. That's how I learn what true bracket is, compared to double team, where it's going to be in and out coverage, where you're gonna have 2 players covering one wherever they go across the field. That's another version of playing 57, or really just playing double. Okay, so I'm trying to get into a situation. If you watch right here, I'm pretty much trying to bracket number 2, and you're going to see me man up the safety on number 2, and then I'm going to use their outside leverage of that number 2. And if he breaks in like he did there, then I'm going to come off and look to help out on any other route that could be entering my area. And you saw I came down and helped out on that. I think it was a drag route coming across the field. So that's kind of a way to get bracket coverage working on one half of the field. Now, there's an interception here by a player in the middle of the field because he's in one robber. That's the original play call. It's one robber. Okay, so it's kind of not exactly true bracket, but the one thing is that robber player ends up kind of being that, doing kind of what I'm doing. He's kind of helping out a little bit in the middle of the field. So what does he help out on? Well, he gives body presence to that number 2 as well on that play. If it was a different route distribution, it could be he's giving body presence to number 3. So it's kind of like a half hybrid way of playing bracket coverage on one side and still getting that robber in the middle. And everybody knows that safeties can jump high and they can make plays, but you're kind of almost zeroed out on the left-hand side with that safety in the middle. So it's kind of a half and half situation, and different formations, you get some different results. Now, as we go through it, I'll talk about when you get snug formations, what do you do? If you get empty formations, what could you do? And stuff like that. That there's some things in the game that's kind of unique. I don't think a lot of people know when it comes to putting guys into different assignments and how they react when you play man defense. Okay. Now, the one base thing that I would do, if we want to talk about the JV level of doing something so that you don't have too much to think about, is just if you don't want to have that robber in the middle because you feel really naked on the other side, just take that player that's supposed to be whoever it is, the safety that's opposite of the bracket and just put him in a deep half. So essentially, you're getting kind of a two-man version, not 100%, but about 90% version of two-man. I could have took that safety right there on the left, put him in a deep half, and then we could have just kind of bracketed the right-hand side. So that might help you if you feel really like the people on the left hand side need help, or you just want to make it a little more sound. Okay. But anyway, I just want to kind of give you a little bit of example of what I'm going to start focusing on again. Just going back over all the techniques that I've talked about with the guys on Patreon. That's going to be on the Patreon, so it's a good time to join. I think if you want to get back into it from a defensive standpoint, offensively, guys who are interested in what I've been working on the past month, really, I have more videos there giving a little bit more insight. I'm going to start doing some game breakdowns after I go through games. I just threw for 500 yards in my playoff loss, unfortunately. But at the same time, I don't think I've ever had an offense that I've been a part of that I've run that I feel pretty confident that I can throw for high numbers, like I am right now using that Tom Moore offense. Okay, so just wanted to get that to you, and then let me show you one more clip here. I think besides talking about different ways of playing man coverage and trying to make it better, there's something that I definitely wanted to talk to you guys about, just a formation problem that has to do with man, but also I'm going to make sure I go through and do, like I said, a checklist of all the different types of adjustments we can make towards snug formation. So let me just go get a clip of that real quick and just kind of give you a little intro of what I'm talking about with snug formations. So I'm a believer of the number three. If you could count to three, you could play for me, like Mike McCarthy says on offense. But the same thing when it comes to Madden. I'm not into when I go into a game, I don't want to have too many adjustments unless I'm getting my ass kicked and I got to go figure something out on the sideline at halftime, right? Just like in real life. What you teach your players is what's more important than knowing everything. It's actually best to just give them a game plan, execute it. And I've always believed in having three ways of covering something. So in this game here, I kind of knew my opponent a little bit, and he runs some good amount of snug formations. So, 2x2 compressed formations, both sides. And so, what are you going to play? Now, usually when I play, I don't call two man versus this stuff. I don't. And this is the reason why. If you look on the left hand side, you'll see how both those guys are on the same level. And really, my best corner, I thought during the game that he just can't cover the guy. I think I tried to I think I put him, I'm not sure if I put him on inside leverage or not. I might have, but the point is, you can just see him bump into the corner, and that's a classic DB problem where you have basically two guys on the same level, as we call it, right? And guys can rub against each other. That route right there, that corner and that shallow works almost like a pick, and it works exactly like how an offense wants. And then how do you prevent that? Is by your guys, both of your players playing on different levels, okay? You want somebody to be impressed, somebody to be off. So we're going to talk about that some more too. And I think this play might have been a lot different if I would have done that. But then more importantly, what are you doing versus snug formations? Again, somebody asked me the question, what's the problems that you're getting out of snugs, and what's your answers? And I go into a game, and I usually have, and I've talked about this to the guys on the coordinator level of my Patreon. I usually have at least three answers, right? So depending on the team I'm playing, if I can match up, or the DBs that I have, can we match up? I might play two man. That's probably what I've done the least so far, to be honest with you. But we're talking about different types of coverages: cover two, cover four, cover six, cover three, or some hybrid coverages that we're going to try to create because of the problems. But we have to go identify what are the problems, and then what can we do to limit some of those problems. And that's what I'm going to do. Getting back on there, I'm going to make sure I'm going to make some videos specific, just like I did with the guys on Patreon. When you guys saw this already, I went through problem formations of 4x1 and then 1x4 split formations. I gave you guys three different coverage answers. I know personally I played a guy this season who comes out in that formation a whole lot. I went back and watched my own video right before the game, and I had my three answers ready to go, and I pretty much beat that guy up and, had success and won most of my downs, just executing those three different plays, and just had him on rotation and just called him throughout the game. And every time I got it, I felt really comfortable. I wasn't stressing, okay? I wasn't mad that the guy was abusing me with playing empty. So having a plan of three, and then you can even mix it up from game to game, that's the way to go. All right. So I'm going to make sure I go back and cover that. We'll talk about the triangle technique, which I talked about. Triangle is a technique that's used in quarters or man coverage or man match type coverages. And I'll talk about my version of box, how I've been, how I've been using that, or lock triangle. That's another word that might mean nothing to you guys, but these are all techniques that are made in the NFL, but I'm trying to make them work for Madden the best way I can. And then I try to explain it to you with lots of video examples. So once we go through the rest of the season here, the last couple months of Madden, we're really going to be watching more tape and watching more game film examples like I'm showing you here so that you guys can understand, what do I think the problems are and then what can be some of the answers. And if somebody gives you a new problem, guys, who cares? Then we'll go figure that out. That's the way defense is. You figure out the problems. You don't worry about ghosts. You don't try to defend things that you don't see, and you just react. And then maybe you can anticipate something coming down the line. But our job is to make sure we fix problems. Okay. All right. Just want to get this video out to you guys on the YouTube, Patreon guys. Tonight, I'm going to sit back and try to watch some film, go back over my last couple games, and then also, very last thing. Sorry, I should have said this in the beginning too, but this is kind of just like a promotional deal. I ain't gonna lie. Um, the guys who were running the 3-4 Wade Phillips defense, I'm using it in 2 leagues now. Okay, so I'm using my wide defense in 2 leagues, and I'm using my 3-4 defense in 2 other leagues. And the 2 other leagues are a little bit more meta-ish, kind of a little bit more mutt-like techniques, even though we are playing. Actually, no, one is not. I'm sorry. One that I just joined is not that way. They're actually pretty much a heavy sim league, but the other one is a little bit more freestyle. All right, so that's good. I'll be able to use that tech. I'll be able to use that playbook, and I really want to make sure I fix some of the problems because I did that one early in the cycle, and there's probably new problems out there we need to fix. But the one thing I will say, anybody using the Wade Phillips defense, you cannot be scared to call cover one a lot of the game, at least 40% of the game. Okay, we don't want to be cheesy and go over 50% of the game, but you're going to be a cover one team, and you're going to want to not just play cover one whole. It's different than the wide defense where you're just only bringing 4. You want to bring 5, maybe 6. Okay, if we green dog, and we got to have that. We got to make people's clock faster. And if that's the case, if you aren't good at it, just get used to having to give up some points in the beginning of it. And then down the line, hopefully it pays off. And then we'll start, falling off to some of the other coverages that we want to play. But I just want to let you guys know that's a little bit of what we're working on. I want to make sure those guys get an update to the book. I'll give little clips on that, actually, or full videos on that. And then any more new defenses and offenses this year coming out, I'm not going to do that probably for the next couple of weeks here. I am interested in still looking into Stefanski. I'm interested in finishing actually McCarthy. I actually had been working on that Mike McCarthy book from his heyday with the whatchamacallit, with the Packers playbook mixed in with some modern day stuff, modern day football, right? And then Stefanski to me is a very good coordinator, or I call him coordinator, but head coach. But his offense is more of the Shanahan slash really Kubiak, I would call it, more West Coast offense. Okay, that's something that I'm interested in, just making sure. Maybe it's not a full 6-part series, just maybe like a 1 or 2 this intro of the style that they use, and then you can put it all together. But then the very last thing is I want to really still do that big nickel playbook by Dan Quinn. This is something that I really wanted to get done. I just didn't do it because the Cowboys got beat so bad. I wanted to get that out. I felt like a lot of people would not want to respect it, but I'm really curious to see if big nickel package can really work in Madden full time, and really can it stop the run. That's the one thing I'm really worried about, and all the good things that go along with that. But just want to give you an idea what's going on. If you lasted this long, you're a fan. I appreciate it. Tell your boys about it. Tell your friends about it. Whoever, let them know that this is a channel you can always come to get some sim content. Try to play Madden the right way and try to use. And I'm trying to give you guys some knowledge of the game of football from my perspective, from a coaching perspective, and how you can enjoy these dog days of Madden, as I call it, just doing something fun. Like I've had lots of fun doing the Tom Moore book. To me, playing the game is more fun, and that's something that you have to do. You can't just wait for somebody else to make it fun for you. You have to try something new, and that might make it fun. Okay. All right, guys. I'll talk to you later. I'll be back with another video later on, giving some more tips as the season goes along. But if you really want to get tips almost on a daily, posting or at least every other day, or getting some sort of instructional video, definitely come over, talk to me. And if you want to join that coordinators crew, you get one-on-one, whatever you need type of instruction. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later. Peace.